I will do that as President of the United States. And by the way, Governor Bush, I will stop allowing China to play us for suckers. We've given them most favored nation status 10 years in a row. They dumped their goods here, and Iowa farmers are selling less to China now than they did 10 years ago. The time of them playing us for suckers will end in my presidency.
Governor Bush, and then Senator Hatch, I need to ask you.
I'm glad you brought it up. You're not for China getting into the WTO.
I don't.
And, well, let me finish. I'm not asking you a question. It's kind of rhetorical here.
Okay. Oh, it's hard to tell with you sometimes, Governor.
I am. And let me tell you something. The amount of corn that'll be moved if China gets in the WTO will rise from 250,000, metric tons to 7.2 million metric tons. Opening up Chinese markets is good for Iowa farmers. Yes, sir.
Governor, here's your fallacy. You believe the Chinese government will keep their agreements. They haven't kept their agreements for 20 years.
That's why we let them in the WTO. That's part of agreement keeping. That brings China to
that just gives them another agreement to break, Governor.
No, well.
Let me take you quickly back to the Freedom of the Farm Act.
You want to isolate the farmer.
I don't want to drop that yet because Senator Hatch, you voted for the Freedom of the Farm Act.
Right. And it was the right thing to do. If farmers want to make better profits off of their farm commodities, the only way to get there is to get into the free market. But having said that, we have not done a good job in helping them in the transition. This has been a tough time for farmers. In this country, we only spend 9% for food in this country, the lowest in the world. And farmers are on the bottom of the totem pole as far as getting recompense for their work. We had 22 million family farms in 1990. Today we have 5 million. Some of that happens because of death taxes. A family farm has to be sold to pay the 55% death tax. That's ridiculous. I think everybody up here is against that, and I'll lead the fight to get rid of it, and in doing so, along with Chuck Grassley on the Finance Committee. With regard to WTO, I was in China in the late 70s, the early 80s, the late 80s, the early 90s, and the late 90s. The difference between the late 70s and the late 90s, because of market and economics and Hong Kong, is so stark. The best way to undermine that police state is to not isolate China and have them withdraw, but bring them into the WTO where they've got to live up to norms of conduct like the rest of the world. And that will help Iowa farmers.
If I'm president, China will find itself respected as a great power. It will be unthreatened, but not unchecked. China will find in America a confident and willing trade partner. And with trade comes our standing invitation into the world of economic freedom. China's entry into the World Trade Organization is welcome, and this should open the door for Taiwan as well.